Welcome to our channel. We're so glad you're here. If you love inspiring stories, powerful lessons, and thought-provoking content, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting update. Colonel Sarah Miller walked into a small supermarket on a calm Saturday afternoon in Dallas, Texas. She was dressed casually in a simple white shirt, blue jeans, and sneakers, blending seamlessly with the crowd. No one could have guessed that this seemingly ordinary woman had spent her career defending the nation, leading soldiers into battle. Sarah enjoyed the peaceful moments of shopping for daily necessities after a long, tiring week. She moved through the aisles, her calm demeanor masking the strength and discipline of a seasoned military officer. Her mission was simple: to pick up a few items and enjoy a brief moment of solitude. However, her peaceful afternoon would soon be interrupted by an unexpected encounter. At the end of one aisle, a tall man in a police uniform, Officer Robert Hayes, accidentally dropped a packet of noodles in a bottle of soda. He glanced at the mess, shrugged, and walked away without a second thought. Sarah, trained to be attentive and responsible in every aspect of life, couldn't let it go unnoticed. She calmly walked over, her voice firm yet composed, as she addressed the officer. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her tone calm but assertive. "You dropped your things. Shouldn't you pick them up to avoid inconveniencing others?" Officer Hayes turned, giving her a dismissive glance. His eyes narrowed as he flashed a condescending smile. "Who do you think you are, telling me what to do?" he sneered. "I don't have time for such trivial things." Sarah's eyes remained steady, and her voice never wavered. "As an officer, you should set an example for the community. Picking up your things is not just polite, it's a sign of respect for others." Officer Hayes scoffed at her words, his expression growing more mocking. "You don't know anything about police work. What you're talking about doesn't matter." His voice dripped with sarcasm as he continued. "You're just a woman. What could you possibly understand?" Sarah's patience was tested, but her resolve remained firm. She stood tall, her posture exuding authority and self-assurance. "It's not about your job," she replied, her voice calm but full of conviction. "It's about respect. As an officer of the law, you should lead by example, especially in front of others." The tension in the supermarket grew as more shoppers turned to watch the exchange. Sarah could feel the weight of the stares, but she stood her ground. She refused to back down, knowing this was about more than just a dropped packet of noodles. Officer Hayes, unable to handle the confrontation, tried to assert his authority by sneering once more. "You think I care about your opinion? I'm the law around here, not you." His voice was laced with arrogance. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes unwavering as she responded. "It's not about who's in charge here. It's about integrity. Your actions are a reflection of who you are, and right now, you're not setting a good example." The crowd around them grew even more tense, sensing the conflict escalating. Some people began to pull out their phones, recording the scene as Sarah and Officer Hayes continued their verbal battle. Officer Hayes, now visibly flustered, sneered again. "So what? You think a few words will stop me? You're just a woman. You can't do anything to me." Sarah's expression remained calm, but her voice grew more resolute. "You underestimate me. This is not just about me. It's about fairness, responsibility, and respect for all people." The crowd's murmurs grew louder as they sensed the gravity of the situation. Sarah stood firm, her demeanor like a shield against the storm of words coming from Officer Hayes. "You really think you can challenge me?" Officer Hayes barked, taking a threatening step closer. His hand hovered over his gun, though Sarah noticed it with a calm eye. "I'm the law here, not you." Sarah's heart raced, but her face remained impassive. She had dealt with far more dangerous situations in her military career. This man's threats meant nothing to her. She slowly reached for her phone, making sure to keep her movements calm and deliberate. "You don't scare me," Sarah said, her voice steady. "If you think you can intimidate me or anyone else, you're mistaken. You'll regret this." She dialed a number, her fingers steady on the screen. Officer Hayes froze, his face faltering as he realized the situation was no longer in his control. The crowd had grown silent, watching every move closely. Some were already whispering about the confrontation. Sarah's call was answered quickly, and she spoke with calm authority. "I need assistance at Central Market. There's a police officer here who is using his position to threaten and harass people. I need the authorities to intervene immediately." Hayes looked around, his arrogance slipping away as he realized more people were recording and witnessing the exchange. "What the hell are you doing?" he growled, trying to regain some control over the situation. Sarah didn't flinch. "I'm doing what any responsible person would do. I'm making sure that what's right is upheld, no matter who you are." The sound of sirens echoed outside the supermarket, signaling that help had arrived. The crowd parted as several officers entered the store. Sarah pointed to Officer Hayes, who now stood frozen in place. "This is the man you need to speak to," Sarah said, her voice unwavering. "All his actions have been documented and witnessed by many people here." Hayes, now visibly rattled, no longer had the confidence he once did. His arrogance had melted away, replaced by fear. The officers moved swiftly to apprehend him, taking his weapon and badge. The crowd, which had been watching in tense silence, now began to applaud. Sarah stood tall, her expression calm and composed as the officers carried out the mayor's orders. As the officers escorted Officer Hayes out of the supermarket, the mayor, Andrew Preston, walked in. His presence immediately commanded the room. With sharp, authoritative eyes, he scanned the scene, stopping at Sarah. "Colonel Sarah Mitchell," he said with a calm but firm voice, "I was informed of the situation. You did the right thing." Sarah nodded, her expression still steady. "Thank you, Mayor Preston. But this isn't just about me. This is about accountability and integrity in positions of power." Mayor Preston's eyes softened for a moment, but his voice remained serious. "Indeed, Officer Hayes has shown an utter disregard for his duties and the public trust. His actions are unacceptable." He turned to the officers who had arrived with him. "Strip him of his badge and weapon immediately. We will begin a full investigation." The officers complied without hesitation, carrying out the mayor's orders efficiently. Hayes, now utterly humiliated, stood frozen, his earlier arrogance replaced by confusion and fear. The crowd, which had been tense, began to cheer. Sarah, though, stood quietly, her face betraying no emotion. This was not about her. It was about making sure justice was served. Mayor Preston turned back to Sarah, his gaze full of respect. "Colonel, we owe you a debt. You've not only shown great courage, but you've also reminded us all of the importance of integrity in public service." Sarah nodded, but her voice was firm. "This is not about receiving praise. It's about standing up for what is right and making sure those who abuse their power are held accountable." As the crowd continued to applaud, Sarah's heart swelled with a quiet pride. She had done what she felt was right, and it had made a difference. "We'll make sure this doesn't happen again," Mayor Preston assured her, his voice resolute. "The public must be able to trust those who serve them." Sarah gave a brief nod, but she knew the fight wasn't over. "This is just the beginning. We need to keep pushing for change, for all of us." The media quickly caught wind of the incident, and soon news reports about Officer Hayes' misconduct spread like wildfire. Videos of the confrontation were shared across social media, sparking a nationwide debate about police accountability and abuse of power. People across the country began to share their own stories of mistreatment at the hands of those in power. And the story of Colonel Sarah Mitchell's courage became a symbol of standing up against injustice. Despite the public attention and praise, Sarah remained focused on her mission. "This is not just about one bad officer," she said in an interview. "It's about the system and how we can make sure it serves the people with integrity and fairness." Her words resonated with many, especially those who had felt marginalized or oppressed by the system. She began speaking at rallies and public forums, encouraging people to hold those in power accountable. Meanwhile, the fallout from Officer Hayes' actions continued. He was officially suspended from his job and faced a thorough investigation into his conduct. As the investigation unfolded, more and more people came forward to share their experiences of mistreatment at the hands of Hayes, and the case began to draw attention from the highest levels of law enforcement. Hayes, who had once been proud of his position, was now facing the consequences of his actions. He was stripped of his badge and weapon, and his career in law enforcement was effectively over. The trial that followed was a public spectacle. The evidence was clear, and the testimonies of those who had been wronged were powerful. Officer Hayes was found guilty of abuse of power, and he was sentenced to prison time for his actions. The news of his conviction sent shockwaves through the law enforcement community. For Sarah, though, this was not about personal victory. It was about sending a message that no one, no matter their position, was above the law. As the trial concluded, Sarah's efforts were widely praised. Her courage in the face of injustice had sparked a nationwide conversation about police accountability, and her story was seen as an inspiration for others to take a stand. But Sarah remained humble. She knew that real change would take time, and that this was just the beginning of a larger movement. "This isn't about me," she said in her final speech at a rally. "It's about all of us, working together to make the world a fairer place. We must all take responsibility for our actions and for the actions of those in power." The crowd cheered, but Sarah only nodded, knowing that the true work was still ahead. The road to justice was long, but she was ready to keep fighting.